You could say that the San Antonio Spurs have had a relatively low-key offseason compared to the rest of the NBA, but I think there's still a certain under-the-radar efficiency to how the Spurs conduct their business that is historically unique to the franchise. As usual, the bulk of their moves this offseason have been low-risk but potentially high-reward, but most importantly, they have been about the future of franchise centerpiece Victor Wembanyama. From the moment Wemby was drafted first overall last year, every organizational decision for San Antonio had to be made with the French phenom in mind, and Wembanyama's historic rookie season wherein he earned an all-defense first-team selection as well as the Rookie of the Year recognition only further justifies the Spurs mentality. Well, one of the most notable problems from the Spurs' underwhelming 22-win season was the lack of quality playmakers and two-way role players around Wembanyama. But obviously, drafting Stephon Castle with the 4th overall pick this year, signing future Hall of Fame point guard Chris Paul, and trading for NBA champion Harrison Barnes are all solid steps in addressing those issues for San Antonio. First, in Stephon Castle, the Spurs just might have landed their potential long-term number 2 option. Castle is mostly known as a defensive-oriented guard, but has also got legitimate playmaking and shot creation chops. But the Spurs also know that in order for them to unlock the version of Castle that could be their point guard of the future, they have to give him time to polish the other parts of his game, which is why the Spurs are still obviously maintaining a patient approach in terms of roster building. And this is further supported by how they also traded the number 8 pick in the draft in exchange for a 2030 first-round pick swap and a 2031 unprotected first-rounder from Minnesota. But at the same time, another factor that caused the Spurs' dismal season was a lack of experience on the roster. But now, they have 2 solid veterans in Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes who have combined for a total of 39 playoff series in their NBA careers. Adding those guys to the youngest team in the league as of last season should definitely make a ton of difference. But then, add in the fact that young players like Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, and Keldon Jonhson are coming back next season a year older and more mature, and also the fact that backup center Zach Collins will be returning from injury, and you could see that on paper, the Spurs will enter next season with a strong 10-man rotation, which I think could honestly be good enough to win a solid 35 to 40 games. So what's good everyone, it's Real Balls here, and in this video, let's talk about how the Spurs' new additions could lead to the team exceeding expectations next season. Let's get to it. First, let's talk about arguably the Spurs' most important summer addition outside of Stephon Castle, and that is Chris Paul. Sure, he is already close to 40 years old and his game has slowed down in recent years, but I'm not sure any of that matters to Coach Pop or the Spurs front office. If you read between the lines from his end-of-season press conference, CP3 obviously wasn't happy just starting a total of 18 games for the Golden State Warriors. He still wants to play a ton of minutes and he wants to compete at a high level, which actually makes sense, as Chris Paul just came fresh off a season where he registered the highest assist-to-usage ratio of his career, which ranked in the 98th percentile of the entire NBA. Plus, his turnover ratio last season was also equal to his turnover ratio from his 2018 season with the Houston Rockets when they almost made the NBA Finals. So just imagine how Chris Paul will change things for a San Antonio team who last season ranked in the bottom 7 of the league in most general turnover metrics. Also, among all active NBA players, Chris Paul has recorded the most assists on alley-oop dunks. Add all of those things together, and you could easily tell that Chris Paul won't waste possessions for San Antonio, and that he'll get the ball to Wembanyama the most efficient way possible. Well, during Wemby's rookie season, point guard Tre Jones was his only viable pick-and-roll partner. Wembanyama's ball screens for Tre Jones have produced 1 point per chance, which is right about the league average among all pick-and-roll tandems who ran at least 100 ball screens last season. While all the other Spurs ball handlers, when paired with Wembanyama on the pick-and-roll, all produced marks which ranked in the bottom 5th of that category. Well, sure, Chris Paul's pick-and-roll possessions with Golden State produced just about average numbers, but he found a strong ball screen partner in 6'9" rookie big man Trayce Jackson-Davis, as that pair produced an above-league average 1.03 points per chance on pick-and-roll possessions. But considering Wembanyama's far superior size, length, and range, it should be easy for Chris Paul to top those marks and to make more efficient plays out of lobs in San Antonio. But then, given Wembanyama's diverse skill set, Coach Pop wouldn't ask him to strictly set ball screens for Chris Paul. Wembanyama will be expected to isolate against lower defenders and to post up against smaller guys. And while doing that, Chris Paul could also function as a solid catch-and-shoot outlet for him. Early last season, San Antonio started non-shooter Jeremy Sochan at point guard, while Tre Jones is still a low-volume and low-efficiency outside shooter at 33%. But in contrast, defenses will have to guard CP3 from behind the arc. He is a career 37% three-point shooter, and last season with Golden State, he spent almost 25% of his possessions spotting up from the perimeter, and he ranked in the 79th percentile of the NBA in terms of points produced out of those spot-up possessions. So just imagine how the additional floor spacing from Chris Paul should lift San Antonio's number 26 ranked half-court offense, mostly because of how his gravity from the perimeter should just open up the paint even more for Wembanyama. Well, for sure, I don't think we'll see the type of on and off impact that CP3 displayed in OKC back in 2020, because to be fair, his recent play has really seen him slow down a bit. But I think there's also some context needed to be understood here, as his last two teams in Phoenix and Golden State also had more mature players than the ones he'll be surrounded with in San Antonio. So I think there's a huge chance we'll now see an even more locked-in version of Chris Paul, with the Spurs really needing him as their starting point guard. And with Chris Paul starting, the Spurs will be able to slide Tre Jones back a bit in terms of the team's ball handling order. Well, Jones posted a 1.62 assist to usage ratio last season, making him the Spurs' best playmaker by a mile. And having that kind of point guard to lead your second unit, together with guys like Julian Champagnie and Keldon Jonhson, will be such a huge luxury for the team. But also, most importantly, the fact that they have Chris Paul and Tre Jones as their point guards means that there will be less pressure for Stephon Castle to be a high-volume primary creator for the Spurs right off the bat. While I see Castle coming off the bench at least early in the season, with Vassell, Barnes, and Sochan starting at the 2, 3, and 4 spots. But obviously, that doesn't mean Castle won't be expected to make plays when he has the ball in his hands. Castle's summer league was cut short after a right wrist injury, but the rookie has shown he's ready for training camp, and between the 3 games he played, it's apparent that the Spurs trust him with playmaking duties, because to be honest, his ball control, his fluidity, and his decision making is something that San Antonio hasn't seen from a rookie guard in such a long time. Castle spent most of his possessions in Summer League as a pick-and-roll ball handler, and he registered 12 assists with just 7 turnovers. And that's quite a solid ratio for a rookie despite it just being in Summer League. But most importantly, based on the eye test, I think Castle is already comfortable attacking out-of-ball screens from multiple angles, and he can change directions really well while still having the power to drive into the heart of the defense into the paint. You can already tell that his ability to put pressure on defenses will translate to the NBA, which should enable him to open up shots for guys like Vassell, Champagnie, and Wembanyama even early on. And of course, defensively, opposing ball handlers will not get to blow by him easily. Castle's lateral quickness will serve him well against shifty guards, and his upper body strength at 6'6" will also give him leverage against big guards and even some forwards. San Antonio finished last season ranking 21st in defensive efficiency, but they showed flashes of improvement in attention to detail towards the end of the year. A lot of that obviously comes from Wembanyama's presence, but Castle's defensive talent should also fit well alongside guys like Vassell and Sochan, who also have such high defensive upsides. But then, even after drafting Castle, I know a lot of Spurs fans have also wished that they didn't trade the number 8 pick in the draft, but in the end, the Harrison Barnes deal wouldn't have materialized if the Spurs didn't trade that pick in order to generate extra cap room to accommodate him on the roster. Add all of those trades together, and the Spurs only basically had to give up the number 8 pick and a second rounder to Charlotte, but in exchange, they landed Harrison Barnes, a 2031 unprotected first rounder, and a 2030 pick swap from Minnesota, as well as a 2031 unprotected pick swap from Sacramento. Well, the picks could be huge for San Antonio's future, but obviously, Harrison Barnes could make a difference for them now. The Spurs needed scoring, especially from the forward position, and Barnes gives them exactly that, as a combo forward who's never shot below 38% from deep the past 8 seasons, and who can also create his own shot. Well, it's worth noting that since the 2020 season, Barnes has never recorded a true shooting percentage below 61%. But in contrast, the best true shooting mark produced by a Spurs player last season was that of Cedi Osman, which was at 60%. Barnes is able to display that kind of shooting efficiency because he doesn't really need the ball in his hands to contribute on offense. He spent 41% of his time on the court with Sacramento last season as a spot-up shooter, and out of those spot-up possessions, he produced a mark that ranked in the 75th 95th percentile of the entire NBA. But then, Barnes also actually ranked in the 92nd percentile of the league in terms of points per possession as a pick-and-roll ball handler. He's able to comfortably drive to the basket or pull up from the mid-range, but I love that he also has tremendous off-ball instincts, as he has routinely found cutting lanes to complement the passing of Domantas Sabonis from the center position. Well, sure, Wembanyama still isn't the playmaker that Sabonis is, but I think Wembanyama simply setting ball screens for Barnes would just give him much more space to operate off the dribble than Sabonis ever did. Overall, I love how Barnes' potential addition to San Antonio's starting lineup at the 3 spot should also give them more leeway playing Jeremy Sochan at the power forward position alongside him. Offensively, this allows Sochan to just focus on playing as a lob threat and as a putback machine out of the dunker spot, with Barnes' ability to space the floor and to create shots from the perimeter. On the other hand, sure, Barnes might have lost a step athletically and he might not be as good as he used to be on defense, but I believe that Barnes' defense will look much better with Wembanyama and Jeremy Sochan playing behind him in the starting lineup rather than when he played alongside Sabonis and Keegan Murray. Well, the Spurs owe him around $40 million, but I love that Barnes has only 2 years left on his contract, meaning having him on the roster won't affect San Antonio's ability to generate massive cap space in the summer of 2026, heading into the final year of Wembanyama's rookie contract. At the end of the day, the quick development of Stephon Castle is going to be paramount for San Antonio, but at the same time, the addition of 2+ 3-point shooters in Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes should immediately provide an upgrade to the Spurs' number 28 ranked 3-point shooting, and that means a lot in a league that values floor spacing so much. But also, factor in Chris Paul's likely impact on Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan, and Wembanyama's shot selection and shot quality, and I definitely wouldn't be shocked to see San Antonio making an unexpected playoff push next season. But what do you guys think is a realistic expectation for the San Antonio Spurs next season? Feel free to drop your thoughts in the comment section below, and again, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this is Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.